Welcome to this new Python course. Here we will learn the Python language in its entirety. For these facts, we have to answer this problem: how to get started in programming. In order to do so, 4 questions come up most often. Is Python a good language to start with? How to learn quickly and well and avoid pitfalls? How to become a good developer, and which computer and software to use. It should be noted that there are several languages, namely C#, Java, JavaScript, Python, and PHP, and each language has a particularity. For example, C# it is specialized in the application, while JavaScript and PHP in the web. Python, on the other hand, is a versatile language that is used in applications, games, the web, and artificial intelligence. It is a language that has a very large community and is easy to learn, and therefore it is a recommended language for anyone who is starting from scratch. Pitfalls to avoid in training. You should not want to learn everything at the same time. I explain myself. When you learn a Python language and another language, it can be difficult to assimilate everything. It is thus advised to learn a precise language to be able to advance easily. Above all, avoid trying to shorten to develop quickly when you are starting out in programming. Good practice. Focus on the language, invest and code as often as possible. How to become a good developer. There are several important notions to remember. We have the basics, which includes variables, conditions, and loops. We have the functions and the collections, the OOP, object-oriented programming, and the algorithms. All this, to be able to do it well, you need a good practice. You have to code as often as possible, do projects and exercises. The computer mostly used. We have Windows, Mac, and software that we can program in Python. We have Visual Studio Code and PyCharm. See you soon for a new video. Hi everyone, welcome to this new Python course. Here we will install some tools to be able to develop. We will install Python and then PyCharm. Here we go. To download Python, you have to go to your browser and type python.org like this, and then type downloads. Choose the version here, so it's the 3.10.1 version. You can directly click on and the download start. After the download, you can click directly to install. Click on continue, 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 and you have to accept the license, then install it, then type the password of your computer. When Python is installed on your computer, you can check the version by Python -- version. You can see directly the version that is installed. So it is the version 3.8.8 that is installed on your computer. To download PyCharm, you have to go to your browser and type PyCharm download, then click on download PyCharm. When this opens, you have to know that there are 2 versions of PyCharm. The professional version, which is paid with a trial period, and there is the community version, which is free. And for our case, we will download the community version. It's more than enough for anyone who wants to start with Python programming. So the download is in progress. The download is done. When you download, you can now install PyCharm. That's it. Press yes to open. Close this page. That's it. Once the software is installed, we can start coding and we can create a new project here, then click on create. That's it. You can delete all this and you write your first line of code. I'll write print hello and click on start. That's it. We'll see you soon for another video on the basics of the Python language. Hi everyone, welcome to this new Python course. Here we will see how programming works. I will explain the basic concepts and programming. There is variables, functions, loops, conditions, and algorithms. It should be noted that these concepts are fundamental for anyone who decides to learn programming. It doesn't matter the language, whether it's Python, JavaScript, PHP, Java, or C#. It's the same thing and it's applied everywhere. In the following video, I'm going to explain you how programming works through a recipe. Let's go. Hi everyone, welcome to the second part of the basic programming concepts. Here we will learn this concept through a recipe. We will see how to prepare an omelette. To do this, we need to break 4 eggs and then mix, add some cream. If I have cheese, add cheese. Finally mix, then let cook for 5 minutes. If we take this recipe inside, we have the numbers and that correspond to the variable. In fact, we can name a variable like number of eggs and store 4 inside. And if we want our program to adapt according to the number of people, we can calculate the number of eggs through the number of people. As it's written here, the number of eggs is equal to the number of people multiplied by 2, knowing that one person consumes 2 eggs. This is the point of variables. So, we have variables of type string. For example, if we take an ingredient equal to cheese, we must not forget the double quotes when declaring a string variable. Then we have the functions. If we look at our recipe, we can see actions like break, mix, add, mix, and cook. These can be called functions, and when we look closely, we have 2 times mix. And in programming, we can write the mix function once and write it every time. Then we have the conditions. If we look closely at our recipe, we have the if cheese, then we add the cheese. Otherwise, we don't add anything. In programming, we call the if and else. Concerning the loops, we can create the function break eggs, and inside it we can put the function break an egg, break an egg, break an egg, break an egg 4 times, and this in a repeated way. That's why we use loops, because loops allow us to shorten the code and just repeat each time with a few lines of code. You can repeat the same thing several times, like this break the eggs functions, which takes a parameters on the number of eggs. And inside this function we have do n times break an egg. That means that here in our functions we put 10. We take the parameter 10, which means 10 eggs. We're going to do 10 times break an egg, And you see that this is a way to really shorten, which is very important for a developer. Then for loops in programming, we have the for and we have the while. The notion of algorithm. It should be noted that an algorithm is a way of doing things. We can explain it. This can be explained through 3 recipes. We have the first recipe, which has 6 elements, the second one which has 5 elements, and the third one which has 3 elements. We can see that the third one allows the user to be faster, but it is not necessarily the best method, and inside we can find disadvantages, as we can find the shells and the fact that they are not well cooked. It should be noted that the algorithms allows us to have a certain robustness, ergonomics, and flexibility on our codes. We see you soon for the creation of our first program. We will start by launching PyCharm. Then we will click on New Project to create a new project. We could rename it First Program, and you leave this configuration and click on Create. Tap on the Ctrl A command to select everything and clean up. When these are displayed, it means that everything is fine. In case there was no main.py, you have to right click on the first program, then click on New, and then on Python file. Rename the file by putting main.py or simply main. That will put .py automatically because it is a file of type Python. That's it. Now, here we are going to write our first line, our first program, as much for me, using the print function without forgetting the parentheses and the quotation marks. My name is Dylan. That's it. And we see that there is the little green button, and so far as there is not this little button, you can immediately right click on PyCharm where you wrote your line of code and run. Click on Run Main. That will run the program, and then you'll just have to click here to run the program. We can see my name is Dylan. If I want to have a second line of code, I redo the same function print. My name is Dylan. I'll run it so. My name is Dylan. We see here that we have twice Dylan. It is at this moment that we will have to call the variable, not to repeat the names every time. See you soon for another video on variables. Well, we're going to continue our program by creating a variable name of type string, Dylan. Then underneath here I do a print name. You'll see that there is no difference. For example, if I did a print Dylan, there is no difference. I'm going to run the program. You can see Dylan twice because the variable allows you to have a dynamic program. Now, here, if I call the name, I'm going to delete Dylan on this line and do a concatenation, and to do the concatenation, I need the plus name, and I run my code. You see that there is Dylan. If I change, for example, here, I put total, instead you will see that it will change automatically. You see I have total, and then I have my name is total. I can change here. I can do the same thing on this side, a plus name, and I launch. Here we see that well is stuck with total. To separate the two, I just have to put a space here and it will go. I run my code. We have well, my name is Toto, and my name is well Toto. If I want to put the space between these two lines, I can make a print with either the parameters or without parameters. It's the same thing. If I put the parameters and if I leave without the parameters, I will have this. If I put the string parameters and run my code, you will get the same thing, so no difference. I'm going to delete this, we don't need it, and at this point I'm just going to, there as a dot, here increase, put the plus and the quotes. I'm going to put a dot, same thing on this side, but more for the concatenation you have to put the quotes and the dot, then run the code. I'll see you soon for another video on the continuity of variables. Thank you! We will try to improve our code by asking the user his name and display it in the program. Well, to do this, we need a function, the input function. Here, this function allows to retrieve and display it at the same time an element or a variable. If I do what is your name, I launch the program, you see well below what is your name, and if I write a name here like Lily and I enter, but nothing happens because this function has not been exploited. On the other hand, if I take this and I come and pass here and I launch what is your name, Lily, nothing happens because I have not hit enter. It should be noted that this function is blocked until I hit enter before the program continues to run. You'll see, well, my name is Lily. Well, we'll try to fix it here by putting your name as well. What is your name? Lily. We consider that there is no space, so I'll put the space at this level and I restart my code. You see that it works. We ask the name to the user and it gives everything normally. It should also be noted that the declaration of a variable and the fact of calling a variable has a priority. We'll declare the variable and then we call it. If I put this variable here, you will see that there is an error at this level because the variable is not declared, so we must first declare it and then call it. If I run the code, you will see that there is an error. An error has been reported. It doesn't recognize, so it's the first the declaration and then the call. It should also be noted that the purpose of variables is to manipulate data that we don't even know. Here, for example, Lily was not a name that we had already defined, so it's a name that can change at any time. If I put Toto and I enter, your name is Toto, so that's the interest of the variables. Well, see you soon for another video on the request of the age of the user. Well, we'll continue with our code. Here we'll display on the screen your name is Tantanta and you are such an age. This is the exercise we're going to do, so I'm going to write what we're going to display on the screen at this level. Now the exercise will consist of asking the user his age and displaying this on the screen with your name is Tantanta and you are this age. So I advise you to pause and do it for yourself, and we'll meet you in a few minutes. To do exercise, I'm going to come to this level and I'm going to first delete this and put name here. Then I'm going to ask the user, how old are you? by just copying this and pasting here. I'm changing this variable and I'm putting, I'm changing this variable and I'm putting age here. I'm also going to put age, what's your age, and I'm calling this label age. We don't forget about a two dots at the end. Now I'm going to run this code. What's your name? Lily. What's your age? You see you call yourself Lily and you have 45. We're going to add here years like this. I'm executing. What's your name? Toto. Your age is 26. So your name is Toto and you are 26. So I run my code again and I try. You see I can add not only the characters in the name but also the numbers, etc. In the next part of the code, we will try to improve our code by making a condition to enter only the name and also the age. I can put the characters, there will be no problem, you see. So here we are going to try to improve our code by putting conditions too. Well, see you very soon for a new video on comments. Here we will see the comments in the code. To make a comment, we need a hash sign. You have to know that the comment is there to explain the code and to disable the parts of the code that you don't need in a certain period of time, and you can enable it. If I add a line of code, I copy this and I paste it here and I put thank you for following the course and I run my program. So there is the tool, you see, and thank you for taking the course. Here at the bottom. To deactivate this line, I'll put a hash sign. Next, if I want to explain what I'm doing, I'll put a hash sign here where asking for the name and age of the user. So I'm explaining my code, but as you can see, the name and the age that are being asked for is not too necessary and we can have the comments with multiple lines. Well, I'm going to copy this. If I pull out this label to show you how to have the comments in the block, I need a code, 3 code. To make a comment, here you see that everything is disabled because at the end, you see, because we put the beginning, we didn't put an end, and I'm going to put the end at this level. I launch my code. What is your name? Tutu. What is your age? 34 years old. You see that comments are full. See you soon on the numerical variables. We will continue with our code and we'll manipulate the variables by starting to delete this. If we look at our program carefully, we see that we have manipulated age here to strings. So we're going to try manipulate the numeric variables. I'm going to start by commenting out age here at this level, and I'm going to put age equal 30, and I'm going to run my program. Everything works normally. That's because there is no difference between them. Age equals between hooks 30 and age equals input. What is your age? Because it is the element that occupied it, there is no difference because age takes a string. Well, here we will try to manipulate age with the numeric number, and to do this I'm going to start with, since we're going to do the test, this is going to be better. We're going to put in a fixed name TD, and here I'm going to put in age at 20. If I run my code, we see that there is an error simply because at age equals to 20 I take the value, the type int, and here I take the string type if I put at this label. Okay, I'm going to try to convert this to a string age because it's not a string. You'll see that it works very well if I do str. I run my code, you see it works perfectly. If I look at the type of name, it's a print in brackets and I'll run it. You can see that name is type of string. If I do the same thing for age, you will see that age is of type input age. I run my code, age is indeed of type in. Convert a number into a string. You just have to put the str in the front. Well, here it's fixed. I'm going to copy at this label. Why are we trying to see the addition? And I'm going to put next year you will have. Here I'm going to put age, which I'm going to call here. So age is equal to 20 years. I run my program and you can see that your name is Titi and that you are 20 years old. Next year you will be 21. This is wrong because if I put in this label 18 years old and I launch my code, it puts that you are 18 years old and next year you will be 21 years old. That is wrong. So that is a dynamic program. Instead, we're going to add age plus a 1 for the next age. I'll put age plus 1 and I run my code. Everything works normally at this point. We have just manipulated strings and numbers. We must know that there are also other types like the float type, which are the numbers with comma, for example 1.5, 2.4. With decimal numbers, there are always points, and we also have the boolean types that are true or false. These are the boolean types. Now we're going to try to ask the user to enter their name and age and displaying this on the screen. Here we have already converted numbers with the strings, and in the following video I will show you how to convert a string into a number. Now we continue with our code and we'll have to reactivate our questions and put age in comments as well as name. So I clean up my code. Now we're going to convert strings to int. Here we're going to convert int to a string. If I run my program, you will see that this does not work simply because at this level age is in string and it is not addable with int. If I run my code, you see there is an error, and to solve the problem we have to add an int before age. So that's how we do the conversion, and I run my code again. You see here though, and you see everything works normally. Now the conversion has been done. If I put anything in front of age, then I will run my code. Here I put, for example, ABCD. You see there is an error because age is converted into int, and here we added the strings. We didn't just add the numbers but also the digits, so it doesn't get found. And in the rest of the program we will see how to handle exceptions and errors. continue with our program, and we will want, for example, here that the user enters the numbers. It displays a message like print error, you must enter numbers for the age. So we will display this on the screen when the user enters characters instead of number or digits. Now we will comment this. We see that this line does not work when the user enters the characters, so we're going to ask the user to try to execute this. We're going to ask the user to execute this, and to do that we need this command, and we put tabulation, and at this point we can see that there is an error here, but there's not really an error. It's just that we didn't continue to write the code, and to do that we have to put except and we write this. We're going to execute our code now. So tata age, you see there is still an error because this line has not been executed. Next age has not been executed because we have entered the characters, but because it is only the line here that has been executed. It is this one error. You have to enter numbers for the age. If I restart my program and I put data here, I put 34, you see everything works normally. So to manage the case where we have entered the letters and the users, it returns a message to the user. We must make an else at this level, and here make a tabulation. I execute my program, I have data. You see that this not work anymore because we have managed the exception. When we look at our code at the level of the except, we see that it is underlined. It is not really an error. We can just write value error, so that on this line I have that the errors. Everything works normally, then we'll put the conditions in such a way that the user must enter a number. If he enters another characters, we'll ask for the number each time. We are going to continue our code with an emergency buoy. Here, we are going to make a recapitulation of all the topics that we have discussed above already. It should be noted that when we use the variables, we must always think to declare it. That is to say, to give it a value. If I take the variable name, here this variable has been declared and initialized to a string because input is a function that has a string as a parameter. And we must note here that Python is sensitive to the case as well as Java. If I do, for example, name with a capital N and I don't change the variable here, when I launch my code, it asks me for the name. I put anything and I enter the age. You see there is an error at this level. You have to try to read the code. If we look at line 15, we are informed that there is an error of type name error on line 15. That means that we didn't name the name as it should have been, so we have to be very careful when we declare the variables and when we call this variable. It should also be noted at this level, when declaring this variable there is no space. If I do not make example name of the person, you will see that is underlined in red. It means that is an error. We never write the names of the variables with spaces. At worst, you can put the dash of 8 at this level. You see everything works normally. It is these small remarks that we must note. At this level, When we take the name, which is equal to the function input and between brackets a character string, we see that it is several things at once. This function input takes as a parameter a character string which will be displayed on the screen and which is initialized. So name as for initial value, what is your name? We can also know the tabulation and the dates. The tabulations are important for the code when we write a code in the blocks, because in Python we do not manage the braces. That removes the tabulation that is at this level. You will see that there is an error. There is an error simply because Python manages intents, and to enter the code, well, we must make a tabulation so that the code is well structured, and especially not to forget the colon. When we write a function or a condition, etc., it is never necessary to forget the colon, because it is that which makes it possible to say to your code that not it is only one block that you work. I have removed the colon. At this level there is an error. There must be a colon for my code to work perfectly. Here it should be noted that when we call a variable we need to declare it before. For example, if I do a print, which is a function that displays a message on the screen, if I do a print, you will see that there is an error. It cannot work even if I run my code. I am told that on line 6 there is an error, name error, because the name has not been declared. I will delete that and I will put after the declaration of the name. Instead, you see that everything works normally. There is no error. If I enter anything here, it shows up normally. There is no error. So it's first the declaration, then the initialization, and then the call. Now we're going to see the difference between a plus and a comma. I'm going to start with a comma. I'm going to do a print, parentheses, double quotes. I'm going to put anything in the strings, and then I'm going to put a double quotes, comma, and I'm going to continue. If I run my code at this level, you will see that normally displays. In fact, this comma allows to enter several parameters in the function print. And now if I copy this and I put at the bottom, and instead of the comma I put a plus, you will see that there is different, because the plus allows to make the concatenation. It is this one. And if I want to add, for example, a number as we have seen above, I put, for example, a plus 1, 2, 3, and I'll launch my code. There is an error at line 7 because it says that it is an int while the other is of type string, and to concatenate I must put a str parentheses. I restored everything. Works normally. It is good at this level. Now we have seen the int and the str. We can write our code differently at this level. We're going to replace age, we're going to copy this, and we're going to add it at this level and put this as a comment. If I rerun my program, here there is already an error because next age is no longer defined, and to remedy this we must put an int here in the front. This is another way of doing this code, and put here age plus 1. I restart my code and you see that everything works normally. I'll see you soon in the next video on the while loops. We will continue with our program, adding the while loop. Inside, we will ask the user to enter an age and repeat this until he enters a valid age. To be able to continue executing the code, for this we need to start by commenting all the code. Here we need to know that there are several types of loops. We have the while loop and the for loop. And here we will learn the while loop. The while loop in French means as long as we saw above, when declaring the variable we initialize it directly. So if I make an a equal to 0, I create a variable of type int, which is initialized to 0. And if I make now an a equal to 1, I reassign a new value to a. In the same way, if I make an a equal to +1, well, I'm going to make the print each time and you'll see the difference. So print a, I do that here as well. I run my code. You see here a equal 1, after a equal 2, after a equal 3. So that's how it works. We do the reassignments of values after the declaration. I will comment this code and let rather the first a equals 0, and we will continue our code. If I make a while loop, I make while lower than 10. This condition will be always true. Will be always lower than 10. Here at the bottom we write print value of a colon. I'll do str to convert to a string, and if I put an a, if I leave it like that, it will be a loop repeated, an infinite loop that will stop when I click stop. So I'm going to run it so that you can see that it continues to run until I press stop here and the program stops. So to compensate for this, we're going to add this at this label, and here I'm saying that a after I've printed the new value of a will reassign a new value to a, and so on. I'm running my code, and you'll see that at this table we've got a0, a1, a2, a3 up to 9, because we've said that a must be lower than 10. So I'm going to write at this label here, I'm going to do a print start of the loop, and I'm going to put the end at the bottom. I restart my code. We have the beginning of the loop and we have the end, and so on the loop starts to run, beginning of the loop, we have the value, and then we have the end of the loop. That's how it works. So I'm going to delete or comment this, and we're going to make a new program. We're going to ask the user for the passwords. To do this, I'm going to declare a value password. In short, is equal to a string, and here I'm going to put password equal, so I initialize it to Mimi in uppercase, and I'm going to do before a while, so as long as the password is not equal. To do this, I'm going to put here not, it's not equal to Mimi, colon, print, what is your password, question mark. So as long as it's not equal, it's going to be repeat several times. And when we have a good password, While get out of the loop is displayed instead a print, correct password, you have access to your account. I'll run this. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake here. I'm going to put in password equals input to ask for the value. I'll restart my code and everything will work normally. You see, it works normally. If I enter tutu, it will ask me every time. And if I enter anything, it will ask me every time until I enter Mimi. And I type it, says correct password, you have access to your account. As we haven't put any code behind it, it just shows up like that, nothing runs. See you soon for the improvement of our code by introducing the while loop. Well, let's remove all this to improve our program. I'm going to delete and uncomment our starting code. Here we want to make a while loop. That is to say, as long as the age is not correct, we ask the age to the user each time and until he enters the correct age. The program will continue to run here. We will start by initializing the next age, here equal to 0, and each time we will ask the age again. That is to say that we will make a while loop as long as the next age is equal to 0, you ask the age. Again, we will put this code inside the tabulation. We will try to comment it and display a print end of loop. Well, I'm going to run my program. What's your name? Tutu. What's your age? 23. I'm going to put end of loop, but well, I'm going to run anything here. I'm going to put Tutu, the age. I'm going to put anything we see it enters the loop, and it means that the age entered is not correct, and it asks for the age again every time. If I enter anything, it will ask me until I enter a correct age. It will continue to execute the program like this, end of the loop. Now I will delete this. I will uncomment this to be able to execute. Here we will improve our program. We will declare age here as age, and here we will put age str. Because this is concatenated age, put str. Here we will say age takes str, and we delete this. Here age str works even if age plus 1 gives everything normally. Well, run to see. What is your name? Tutu, what is your age? It works normally, everything works fine. I'll rerun my code and enter anything. Tutu on the name, age it asks me again and again until I enter the correct age and it comes out of my loop. It comes out and it says your name is Tutu and you're 34 years old. Next year you'll be 35. Well, we'll see you soon on the next video on the while loops Lifeline. The while loops Lifeline. Here we'll go back to our two examples about the password and the age. When we look at our program, we can ask ourselves the question, what is the purpose of this line? When this question comes to your mind, you must remember that the execution of a program is done in a sequential way. So it's first line 3, then line 4, after line 5, and when the loop is checked that it's true, it goes out. It can execute line 7, as much for me. This is how the program runs. You have to remember that the program runs sequentially, each step in its place to better explain this. I'll comment this and run my program. You see, I'm told that at line 4 there is an error because the password is not verified and we could do otherwise. I'm going to put this on top and you'll see the difference. You'll understand why we just declared the password as an empty string. I run my program and it asks me for my password. If I enter anything, it asks me for the password every time, repeatedly. And when I enter a password which is equal, it comes out and tells me that the password is correct. You have access to your account. When I look at this program, I realize that there is a repetition at this level. That's why I decided to delete this and to uncomment this to have a well-structured program without repetition and more coherent. So the idea of the declaration is to force us to enter a number, because if the user has not declared before, he can't enter this loop. He won't run. So the program, the password declared above, allows the user to execute his while loop in order to compare. Well, here I'm going to try to enter a password is equal to the initial password, that is Mimi. So I initialize password to Mimi and I run my program. You will see that it will come out of the loop and it will work directly. Why? Because when it runs the program and it wants to check and verify your password is equal to Mimi. It's true on condition that it comes out of the loop directly and it shows me this. In this program, therefore, it is necessary to be very careful at the time of the declaration of a variable, especially the type string of character, to always pay attention. It is never necessary that is equal to the initial condition. If not, that will never execute the program. I'm going to comment on this and we're going to resume our program with the age. Concerning the age, str actually means that we enter a character string and we could rename it differently. That is to say that we can take string age and rename it here each time string, and that will give perfectly. This program could be written in another way, that is to say I could copy this whole line up to here and I make a copy and return past here like this, and this will work perfectly. But I execute my program, you see it asks me the name, I put TT, the age. Well, I will enter anything already. It tells me that there is an error at this label because the age entered normally must be an int and not a character string. Therefore, if I restart my program and that I put TT, I enter the age 23, it executes my code perfectly. So after the execution, the program is done sequentially. After the execution of this, it enters the loop, it checks if it's correct. It continues until this level. It displays this, but when we look at this program, we realize that there is a repetition and the best thing is to put this inside a while loop. I'm going to delete this and this too, and we could do it differently.
by putting at this label an else colon tabulation on the two lines here. I run my program and you'll see that it's the same thing. Everything works normally. Oh, yeah, I forgot to declare age equal to 0. I run my program. It executes normally because it's going to enter the loop, check and see if we can do the conversion. Yes, it's true. We can convert the string entered by the user into an int, so an int type, and continue to run the program. Well, we will see already this. We will enter anything. For example, here I always put dd, and after I enter anything to see if it is executed, I put enter. It executes normally, so when it arrives here, it sees that it has not converted, so it's wrong. It goes directly into the exception and it shows me this tag. It asks me the age again each time. Each time I enter an invalid age, it will ask me the age again and so on until I enter a valid age of 24 and it comes out. Well, see you soon on the importance of debugging. We will continue our code with the debugger function. To activate the debugging mode, we have to click here. You see that at this label there is a red dot that appears. We can click here too, so it depends. The fact of putting several dots like that means that we will be able to check the code to see at which label there are errors, and so it's more when there are errors and we don't find ourselves that we activate the debugging mode to be able to detect at which level there is a problem on our code. Well, more precise, I am going to launch my code. To start, you must click here at this label our program's blocks because we must enter name. I'm going to enter TT at this label. Another window opens to show us that we entered well the name TT, which is a character string, and we are on this function. If I continue my execution, you will see that it arrives here and it passes on the following page, and to pass on the following page we need this arrow and informs us that here age is initialized to 0. If I hit next, it enters the loop and it asks me to retrieve a value with the input function. I will click on next and it asks me the age. Already when we click on next, you see that there is no more writing, simply because I have to enter a recovery element that must be entered. That's why we have to go to the console page and type. I'm going to first the case of error. I put anything, and if we go to debugger, we click here, we see that at this label the elements entered and a string we can't convert. I continue, it enters here, it starts again because it has been checked. It comes back here, we see that the input string is not the correct element, so it comes back to this condition. I go to next, it enters, it asks me for the element. We have to go to the console to see. You see, and I click here, start again in the function. It asks how old are you? I put 23. I type that continues, I pass on debug, and that arrives at this label because the condition if was validated. Therefore, if this one had not been validated, that was to put the case of error and to start
again to loop, and after if we start again on our console, we will see that the program it is executed normally. Well, say see you soon for a new We will continue our code with a small exercise. The statement of the exercise is to check if the name entered by the user is different from an empty string, because if I launch my program, you'll see I'm going to launch a request for my name. I type enter and it validates directly. So here you're going to try to do a while loop and check that the number really has a value or it's an empty string. So we'll see you soon in a few minutes for the correction. I invite you to do the exercise. To correct this exercise, if we are going to make a while loop and put this in the while loop, as long as the name is equal to an empty character string, we ask again for the name. I make a tabulation and here we must declare the name like this. In this function says that as long as the name is empty or is an empty string, we restart and so on. I'm going to run the program. What's your name? If I type enter, it asks me the name again, and when I type, for example, TT, asks me the age, so it comes out of the loop and it asks me the age. If I type the age 24, it tells me, well, your name is TT, you're 24 years old, next year you'll be 25. So that's all for this exercise. We'll see you soon for a new video on function. Exercise. We will continue with our code and we will make the functions. When we look at our code, we see that it has 3 parts. We ask the age is the first part, ask the name the second part, and display the results correspond to the third part. And if we want to do well and improve our code, we can put this in a function that we can call askAge. If I do like this, it's calling a function, and to declare a function or define the function, I need to put a def in front. I put a colon, and I'm going to put all this code inside by making a tabulation. And after that, I'm going to call my function to do this. I have to write the name of the function defined above, so ask for age, and don't forget the brackets. If I do it this way, you see at this level there is an error. It's simply because the age is declared locally in the function and not globally. I'm going to put at this level equal age. If I put like that and I put the cursor on my mouse, it tells me that the age I have defined an age at the bottom that is the same name as the age at the top, which explains this underlining. If I change the name here and I put earlier in it, I change and I make an age return in it. You see, that is good. I can launch now my program. What is your name? TT, and you're 23 years. You see that my program functions normally. Now, if I want it is a debug to see how this code executes, I will come to this level, at the level of the call of the function, to put a button, debugger, and to press to launch the program here. The function blocks level. When it arrives, there is a ask the name, the function input, therefore I must put a name. I will put TT. When I put TT, it arrives here. I must not click here, because if I click, it will just continue to execute the code normally.
In what we would like is that it enters this code in the function and begins to execute it. For that, we must type right here. You see, that it begins to execute, and now we can type here on step over and so on. It is blocked at the level of inputs. It is necessary to enter the age. We continue. Everything functions normally. Well, we'll see you soon for We are going to continue our program with the emergency Buoy concerning the functions. When we look at our program, we see that here we have the definition of the function, which is materialized by the keyword def, and then we have the call of the function. We must not forget the parentheses, which are very necessary. If, for example, I delete this and I launch my program, you will see that there is an error at this level. I'm told that the function askAge was not normally returned. The value of this function was not returned because of the parentheses. We put back our brackets and then we can't retrieve the values that are here because of this function should normally return a result here, age init. It should be noted that a function is like a black box that allows you to do several things at once with just a few lines of code. For example, if I copy this here and I put, for example, here, it's not the same as when I put in the function. There is a difference already that we see that at this level there is a problem. The return is not normally in its place. If I look carefully at my code, the variables age in it is actually the result of the function that is assigned to the value age. If I change, for example, and I do something like this inside, I put age in it, you see that there is an error. There is an error simply because the age is defined rather in the function, so it is a local value. The age here is a global value of which this executable, especially the code. However, this is just executable in the function. That's why we try to name it in a different way, and it is also necessary to structure its code well to put the tabulation if, for example, in the function askAge, if I make a tabulation, so that the while loop is going to take the keyword return. I will make a tabulation and I execute my code. There is no difference between the two. It returns well. Result, there is no difference, but if I put rather the return in except, you will see that there is a difference. I made tabulation, I run my code, and there is an error because the value entered by the user has not been retrieved here. So this return and inside except if I run my program again and I put the value that has an error, will run it again like this. I put TT, then I put anything. You can see that it will enter at the level of except. It retrieves the print with the error it displayed normally, and it returns a value of 0 to the user, which means that you are called TT and you have 0 years. Next year you will have 1 year.
So think too well intentioned. You got to put the return when it's necessary. We often have functions that not return value and functions that return values, as it is the case of this function. This function returns a precise result, which is the initial age and will be stored in age. So in general way, the functions are used to simplify the code and to prevent the repetition. Well, that was all for this video. We say see you very soon for a next one on the exercise on function ask for the name. The function's emergency box. We are going to continue our code with the function askForName, and inside this function you must have a name response variable that gets the value entered by the user and returns this value here. See you in a few minutes for the corrections. Now, for this exercise, we are going to write a function askName with the keyword def askName like this, and don't forget the colon, and inside this function we are going to put this little block like this, and after returning a value return name, we make a tabulation at this level. As we said, the return variable must take the name response name, so here we'll declare response first. Now we're going to rename this everywhere, enter name as this is inside, enter name the returned value, enter name as this, and here we're going to call our function with name equals request name, and we're going to rerun our code to see if it works. So what's your name? We're going to put TT, you age 23, you call TT, you're 23, next year you'll be 24. Well, that was all for this exercise. See you soon for a new video on global variables and parameters. Before moving on to the function, we'll talk about the function parameters and the global variables. Earlier, I explained that there are two kinds of variables, local variables and global variables. If we take a good look at our function askAge, we can see that here inside there is a local variable age init, which is only accessible inside the function. If I change this function by putting age at this level, I will change everywhere, and even here age init, I will change to age completely at this level. And here I'm going to declare this at the top. I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to delete that. I'm going to launch my code, and you're going to see your name TT. Here we can see that there is an error, and we're talking about line 25 at the level of the call of the function ask for age. So it's at this level that there is an error. Why? Because the variable age declared here is a global variable, and for this function to have access to this variable, it would have to be put and declared here, globale. So this function must have access to the variable age. If
only if it's declared inside as a global variable.
I will start my code. What's your name? TT, you age 23. You can see that the code works normally, but this method is not very advisable, as we would need to use this function to have the identifiers of several people. So let's start again and take our starting function. The function that we had at the beginning, we start again here, and I'm going to show you with this function the importance of the parameters, and we return here age in it, and at this level I call it age like this. Here we have our function of departure. We could call several people for that. We have to put name 1 for the first person. We copy this and we put name 2 for the second person, as well as the age 1 for the first person and age 2 for the second person. And at this level here we are going to put in a parameter person and call that here asking for the age. We call directly the person like this, and we are going to copy this, make twice. We change everywhere. You see that it is good now. We check. So this program allows us to ask the name of 2 people and the age of 2 people. I'm going to launch. What's your name? It's normally for the first person I'm going to put Mimi. What's your name? For the second person I'm going to put Titi. Oh, sorry. Here we have to put name 1 and name 2. We restart our code. What is your name? Mimi. Your name Titi is for the second one. Mimi, what is your age? 12. Titi, what is your age? 34. You see, you call Mimi, you are 12 years old. Next year you will be 13 years old, and you call Titi, you are 34. Next year you will be 35 years old. In conclusion, the global variables are variables that are manipulable everywhere in the code, and the parameters are the necessary elements to make the code dynamic. Well, we'll see you soon for an emergency buoy on parameters. Before moving on to the function, we'll talk about the function parameters and the global variables. Earlier, I explained that there are 2 kinds of variables, local variables and global variables. If we take a good look at our function, askAge, we can see that here inside there is a local variable, age init, which is only accessible inside the function. If I change this function by putting age at this level, I will change everywhere, and even here age init, I will change to age completely at this level. And here I'm going to declare this at the top. I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to delete that. I'm going to launch my code, and you're going to see your name TT. Here we can see that there is an error, and we're talking about line 25 at the level of the call of the function ask for age. So it's at this level that there is an error. Why? Because the variable age. The cloud here is a global variable, and for this function to have access to this variable, it would have to be put in the cloud here, globale. So this function must have access to the variable age. Only if it's declared inside as a global variable. I will start my code. What's your name? TT, you age 23. You can see that the code works normally, but this method is not very advisable, as we would need to use this function to have the identifiers of several people. So let's start again and take our starting function. The function that we had at the beginning, we start again here, and I'm going to show you with this function the importance of the parameters, and we return here age in it, and at this level I call it age like this. Here we have our function of departure. We could call several people for that. We have to put name 1 for the first person. We copy this and we put name 2 for the second person, as well as the age 1 for the first person and age 2 for the second person. And at this level here, we are going to put in a parameter person and call that here asking for the age. We call directly the person like this, and we are going to copy this, make twice. We change everywhere. You see that it is good now. We check. So this program allows us to ask the name of 2 people and the age of 2 people. I'm going to launch. What's your name? It's normally for the first person I'm going to put Mimi. What's your name? For the second person I'm going to put Titi. Oh, sorry. Here we have to put name 1 and name 2. We restart our code. What is your name? Mimi. Your name Titi is for the second one. Mimi, what is your age? 12. Titi, what is your age? 34. You see, you call Mimi, you are 12 years old. Next year you will be 13 years old, and you call Titi, you are 34. Next year you will be 35 years old. In conclusion, the global variables are variables that are manipulable everywhere in the code, and the parameters are the necessary elements to make the code dynamic. Well, we'll see you soon for an emergency buoy on parameters. The emergency buoy concerning the parameters. Here I'm going to come back to the function parameters. If we look at our code, we can wonder where this comes from. The word person. First of all, we must always reason in terms of the main program, which is at this level. I'm going to try to divide this up through a command like this. Here we have the main program, and here we have the function. We mustn't forget that the functions are like black boxes. We call them, but we don't really see how it execute it, like here. At name level 1, we call the function ask the name. At this level, and we don't know how it's done, we just call the function in the main program. It's like a black box that we can't know its content, and when we call it, we get the value returned from the function, which make us store this value in a variable. There are functions with parameters like the function askAge, and functions without parameters like the function askName. The function askAge takes an element which in reality the name of the person, recovers this element and returns that at the level of here. Therefore, by asking the question, we will ask directly to the person, as we saw in the program above. If I make, for example, well, it should be noted that we can have several parameters in a function and that we do not know through the commas. Here we can remember that a parameter is a variable local to a function and visible only within that function. So we can't use the person parameter in all the code. It's only visible in that function and we can name it anything. If we give, for example, an element to a function, I must automatically give a value to this function as it is the case. I'll delete a little name too and you'll see the difference. You'll see that there is an error. What's your name? Mimi TT. Your age 23. You see that at this level there is an error at line 23, that normally there is an argument missing one required. There is an argument that has not been stored at this level. So if I put, for example, directly TT and I restart my code, I take Toto, Tina, age, Toto 12, TT, you can see that at this level, when we want to make a call, it takes the element entered as an argument. So it takes this argument to return to the function. But the code works normally because when we enter the second name, Tina, it takes Tina into consideration. But when it has to ask the question, it just asks the questions for TT. You have to be really careful when you enter the parameters, and when a function takes parameters, you have to always give a variable when you call this function. And now, if a function doesn't take a parameter, as it is the case of name, it doesn't take a parameter. The function that asks for the name doesn't take a parameter. If you put a parameter, you will see that there is an error. So I run my code and you'll see directly. I am informed about the error on line 19, saying that normally the function should not take a parameter and we put an argument inside. So be very careful when we do the function. If you do not put a parameter, put no value in the function. And if you put parameters, you must automatically put a value when you call. In conclusion, to pass from that depends. If we want to give a value to this function or not, well, see you soon for an exercise concerning the function to display. In this part, we are going to make a small exercise. If we look at our code at the level of displaying the result, we notice that we repeat this code 2 times. So the exercise is going to be create a function to display, which returns the name and the age. I invite you to make it and we meet in some minutes. To do this exercise, you can create a function no matter where it is. there is no preference. I'm going to create this here at the top, and here I'm going to put as the command display. In the display function, I have to return the print and the two prints, the name and the age. So I'm going to do def display between brackets. It take as a parameter the name, comma, and the age, and I'm going to copy this, paste it here. I'm going to go to this label to call my function. First, we delete this by doing display name1, comma, age1. I copy this and I do two. We relaunch the code. What's your name? TT. Your name Mimi. TT, what is your age? 12, 14. You see that everything works normally. Well, that's all for this exercise. We'll see you soon for a new video on conditions and variables.
We will continue with my code, and here we will see the conditions. It is the if and the else. It should be noted that there are several types of operator. We have the arithmetic operators, the plus, the minus, the multiplication, and the division. We have the string operators. It is about the concatenation, which is the plus, and the repetition, which is the times. We also have the logical operators. It is about the and, the where, and so on. We have the assignment operators. In this part, we are going to use the operators of comparison. It is about the double equality of inferior or equal, superior or inferior and superior. Here we are going to return to the screen major or minor, depending on the age of the two people that the user will have entered. For this, we must do an if the age is greater than or equal to 18, colon print, you are major. To do the reverse condition, we could do the if the age is less than or equal to 17, colon print, you are minor. It would normally work, but good practice would be to put instead an else here. And I will restart my code. TT, Mimi, TT, what's your age? 12, Mimi, what's your age? 17. You see that at the level of TT, it is indicated minor. Well, I'm going to put the space to see where to put the space. I'm going to do a print. I'm going to rerun my code. TT, Mimi, 12, 19. You see that at this level we have you called TT, you are 12 years old. Next year you'll be 13 years old. You are a minor. And you call Mimi, you are 19 years old. Next year you will be 20 years old and you are an adult, so everything works normally. We must retain that this function returns in reality a boolean type. That means true or false. For that, I will put a condition which I will call variable or value. It is better. Value equals age, higher or equal to 18. And here I will put value. And I will restart my code. And one can even make to check the type of the value by putting a print between brackets value. I look at my code, TT, Mimi, 13, 19. You see here, you call Mimi, you are 19 years old, next year you will be 20 years old. It is of type boolean.
If I put here to see the value, print value, here it is to see in reality the result that it returns. I rerun my code, Mimi, TT, 12, 19. You see that are at the level of Mimi, you are 13 years old, it is false. And at the level of TT, it is true. So the if condition returns a boolean type value. That's why here I had marked true or false. Well, we'll see you soon for another video on the elif, which actually means if not if. We will continue with my code, and here we will see the conditions. It is the if and the else. It should be noted that there are several types of operator. We have the arithmetic operators, the plus, the minus, the multiplication, and the division. We have the string operators. It is about the concatenation, which is the plus, and the repetition, which is the times. We also have the logical operators. It is about the and, the where, and so on. We have the assignment operators. In this part, we are going to use the operators of comparison. It is about the double equality of inferior or equal, superior or inferior and superior. Here we are going to return to the screen major or minor, depending on the age of the two people that the user will have entered. For this, we must do an if the age is greater than or equal to 18, print you are major. To do the reverse condition, we could do the if the age is less than or equal to 17, print you are minor. It would normally work, but good practice would be to put instead an else here. And I will restart my code. TT, Mimi, TT, what's your age? 12, Mimi, what's your age? 17. You see that at the level of TT, it is indicated minor. Well, I'm going to put the space to see where to put the space. I'm going to do a print. I'm going to rerun my code. TT, Mimi, 12, 19. You see that at this level we have you called TT, you are 12 years old. Next year you'll be 13 years old. You are a minor. And you call Mimi, you are 19 years old. Next year you will be 20 years old and you are an adult, so everything works normally. We must retain that this function returns in reality a boolean type. That means true or false. For that, I will put a condition which I will call variable or value. It is better. Value equals age, higher or equal to 18. And here I will put value. And I will restart my code. And one can even make to check the type of the value by putting a print between brackets value. I look at my code, TT, Mimi, 13, 19. You see here, you call Mimi, you are 19 years old, next year you will be 20 years old. It is of type boolean. If I put here to see the value, print value, here it is to see in reality the result that it returns. I rerun my code, Mimi, TT, 12, 19. You see that are at the level of Mimi, you are 13 years old, it is false. And at the level of TT, it is true. So the if condition returns a boolean type value. That's why here I had marked true or false. Well, we'll see you soon for another video on the elif, which actually means if not if. We will continue with the conditions, and here we will add these two examples. If the age is equal to 17, we display on the screen, you are almost major. If the age is equal to 18, we display just major, 2 points, congratulations. To do this here, we'll do an if age equals 17 colon. We'll copy this and we'll put it at the bottom. And then again, if age equals 18 colon, print just major, congratulations. If we do this, it will be correct, but the only difference is that when the user has 18, it will display this message, just over 18, congratulations, and the message, you are over 18, and it is at this label that we intervene the elif, which means if not if, and we relaunch the code tt mama 18 15. You can see that at this label your name is tt and you are 18 years old. Next year you will be 19 years old, just major, congratulations, everything works normally. And here your name is mama and you are 15 years old. Next year you will be 16 years old, you are minor, so everything works normally. It should be noted that the advantage with the elif is that it's exclusive. That is to say, we check first this condition. If it is true, we display this on the screen, and then if it's not true, we enter this condition. We check if it is true, we display this on the screen, and if it is not true, we enter here, and so on. So, we'll see you soon on the next video on the exercise concerning the conditions. We are going to continue with our program, and here we are going to make an exercise. The exercise consists in displaying on the screen you are senior when the age will be superior to 60 years old, and you are children when the age will be lower than 10. Well, I'll let you to do the exercise, and remember that the order is important. You must first put these two lines before putting the 60, and for the 10, no matter where you put it, it will absolutely take. Well, we'll back in a few minutes to correct the exercise. Now for the exercise, I'm going to leave this and I'm going to go this label, and I'm going to elif age is less than 60 colon print your senior. I'm going to copy this and we're going to display it here. For the 10 years old, I can put here elif age less than 10 print. I'm going to copy this. You're a child, so that we don't have to repeat ourselves every time. We're going to be commenting on this function here and here, and down here noun 1 I'm going to put noun 2, and down here I'm going to rerun my code. Titi, what's your age? I will put 6. Tita, what is your age? And here I will put 65. You see that the code works normally. If I rerun Titi, what is your age? I will put 17, and here I will put 45. Your name is Titi and you're 17 years old. We say almost major, and at 45 years old you are of major, so everything works normally. Well, we'll see you soon for a video on the conditions concerning the and/or. We will continue with our code. Here we will see the conditions and/or. For that, we must make these two examples. If the age is included between 12 and 18 and it displays on the screen you are teenager. If it is the age either is equal to 1
where the age is equal to 2, we display you are baby. For that, we have to enter this age between 12 and 18 at this level before the age equal to 18. So I will do elif. Otherwise, if elif age greater than or equal to 12, and in English it's and less than 18, colon print, you are a teenager. Here it emphasizes because we can do differently. You can see that the age is repeated twice. So we can rewrite this code like this. We'll put 12 less than or equal to age which is less than 18. We can still write it like this. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to replace it here, and the end will intervene when the variables are different. And for the baby, I'm going to take elif age equals 1, or in Python it's or age equals 2 colon you are baby, and I'm going to restart my code. TT, what's your age? 1, 14. You see that it's displayed normally. Everything works normally. You are a baby and you are a teenager, so everything works normally, and we'll see you soon for a new video on the for loop.
We will continue with our code, and here we will see the for loop. I'm going to comment on this, and if I run my code again, nothing is displayed, nothing happens, everything is fine. Here we're going to do the for loop. Through the for loop, I'm going to write a function that displays the numbers from 1 to 10 for I in range parentheses. We said from 1 to 10, so 1 and 11, colon, print I run the code, you will see. It starts well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 10. The range function is a function that returns numbers according to the interval. Here, 1 is inclusive, while 11 is exclusive. That is to say, if I put, for example, 0, and here I put 5, you will see that it will display on the screen 5 times. 1, 2, 3, up to 4, but it doesn't display the 5 because the 5 is exclusive and the 0 is inclusive. Now, to improve our code, here we are going to ask the age of 3 people. I'm going to do name equal person, concatenate str I plus 1 and age equal ask the age of name, and then we display name, comma, age. I run my code. Person 1, what is your name? You see that it displays directly. Your name is person 1, you are 1 year old, you are a baby. Person 2, how old are you? I'll put 17. It says your name is person 2, you're 17, next year you'll be 18, you are almost adult. I'll put 65 for person 3. Your name is person 3, you are 65, next year you'll be 66, you are senior. The code works perfectly. Here I'm going to declare a constant. It's true that constants don't exist in Python, but to overcome this, we write a variable with capital letters. So I'm going to put number, perso for person, equal to 3. This will make our code more dynamic, so that if we want to change the number of people, we can change it at that level. For example, add 4, 10, 14, and so on. It makes it easier to improve the code. If I write this and I run it, person 1, 12, person 2, 2, person 3, 18. You can see that our code absolutely works, and we will see you in the next video on optional parameters and common numbers. We will continue with our code, and here we're going to look at decimal numbers and optional parameters. I'm going to change the value of the constant, and I'm going to put a person. I'm going to increase the height of a person. To do this, I'm going to go to the display information function. I'm going to create a height variable that is equal to 1.55, and here I'm going to display the type of the height, print, type, parentheses, height. Under that, we are going to do a print. Your height is colon, concatenate, str, parentheses, height, plus meter. I'm going to run my code again, and you will see that the type of my height variable. You can see that here it displays type float, which means a decimal number. The height is displayed at that level. Here we can see that the height is static, and to make it dynamic we need to create a function askTheHeight. Let's keep it simple. On the display function I will add the height parameter, and I run my code again. There is an error on line 82. It says missing one required positional argument height. There is an height argument missing. Line 82 is here. If I put a comma, 1.45, and I run my code, you see that everything works normally. I'm going to delete this height at this level, and I'm going to delete this to add a 0 value to the height, which means that the height parameter is optional. If I run my code, it tells me your height is 0 meter. We're going to do an if. If the height is equal to 0, we don't display. So I'm going to do if height equal 0, colon, and here we are going to add not to say display this if the height is not equal to 0. I run my code again. You can see that it doesn't display anything. I have the value here. I put 1.56. I run my code. You can see that it displays the height normally. That's all for the decimal numbers and the optional parameters. We will see you soon for the formatted strings. We will continue with our code, and here we will see the formatted strings. So far, we have seen that to do a concatenation, we need the plus. Here we will see another method. I'm going to copy this and paste it under that. I'm going to put an F for format, and I'm going to delete this by putting it on a single line. I'm going to add braces, and inside I'm going to put the name, so the variable I want to display. I will do the same here, like this. I put age. I don't need to put str there because it converts automatically. I run my code. Your age 34. You can see that the line displays normally, just like the next line. I will do the same thing to show another method with this. Here, we're going to use the percentage %s, and we don't need to put an F in front of it. We're going to delete this and put percentage %s, and then put percentage and the item I want to display, which is age plus 1. I'm going to put parentheses, age plus 1. I'm going to run my code again, and you will see there is no difference. Your age, 2. You can see that it's displayed the same way. There is no difference between the two. And if we want to use this method with the percentage %s to display several items or several data, I'm going to copy this part and add it on the dot. Here we will put a percentage %s, and at this level too we will put a percentage %s. I put percentage, parentheses, name, comma, age. That's how it's done. I run my code. You can see that the 3 lines written differently are displayed in the same way. No difference. I will show you another thing. If we want to display a text on several lines, we need to do a print, except that instead of putting 2 double quotes inside, we will put 3 so that we can display on several lines. And I will show you how it works. You are in training. Regarding the language, Python, I run my code. You can see that it displays on several lines. We can try this function to display multiple items or text on several lines. I'm going to show you another thing with the print function. With this function, we can display several variables of different type. That is to say, I will put here tt, 15, tonton, distance, 1.67. I run my code. You can see that it displayed normally, so the print function can be used to display several variables of different types, as we have seen here. We will see you soon for another video, a synthesis. We will continue with our code, and here we will see the formatted strings. So far, we have seen that to do a concatenation, we need the plus. Here we will see another method. I'm going to copy this and paste it on the dot. I'm going to put an F for format, and I'm going to delete this by putting it on a single line. I'm going to add braces, and inside I'm going to put the name, so the variable I want to display. I will do the same here, like this. I put age. I don't need to put str there because it converts automatically. I run my code. Your age, 34. You can see that the line displays normally, just like the next line. I will do the same thing to show another method with this. Here, we're going to use the percentage %s, and we don't need to put an F in front of it. We're going to delete this and put percentage %s, and then put percentage and the item I want to display, which is age plus 1. I'm going to put parentheses, age plus 1. I'm going to run my code again, and you will see there is no difference. Your age, 2. you can see that it's displayed the same way. There is no difference between the two. And if we want to use this method with the %s to display several items or several data, I'm going to copy this part and add it on the dot. Here we will put a %s, and at this level too we will put a %s. I put percentage, parentheses, name, comma, age. That's how it's done. I run my code. You can see that the 3 lines written differently are displayed in the same way. No difference. I will show you another thing. If we want to display a text on several lines, we need to do a print, except that instead of putting 2 double quotes inside, we will put 3 so that we can display on several lines. And I will show you how it works. You are in training. Regarding the language, Python, I run my code. You can see that it displays on several lines. We can try this function to display multiple items or text on several lines. I'm going to show you another thing with the print function. With this function, we can display several variables of different type. That is to say, I will put here tt, 15, tonton, distance, 1.67. I run my code. You can see that it displayed normally, so the print function can be used to display several variables of different types, as we have seen here. We will see you soon for another video, a synthesis. Hello everyone, and welcome to this Python lesson. Here, we will continue by using a more visual approach. We are going to use the turtle for this part, and the objective is to use what we have seen before, which means the for and while loops, variables, functions, and also modules. The principle here is to move the turtle with the help of 4 commands. The command forward to move forward, backward to move backward, right to rotate to the right with the angle in degrees, left to rotate to the left, also with the angle in degrees. Here, our turtle will have to go forward, turn to the right, go back down, and go to the left. We will see you soon for another video about the turtle project. We will continue with our code, and here we will create a new project. We will name it Turtle, create, close. Here is our project created. Here we will use a module. What is a module? A module is something that will be added to our Python language. There are modules that are already built in, like the turtle module. There are also modules that can be installed separately, and we will see that later. To use the turtle module, we will type import turtle, and we will create our turtle variable, which we will name t equal turtle point turtle parentheses. This means that it is an object. If I run my code, you will see a window that opens and closes quickly. I run it. and you saw that a window opened and closed immediately. To overcome this, I will write at this level turtle, point done, parentheses. This will keep the window open. I run my code. You can see that the window is open, and you can magnify it as you wish. Inside, there is a small triangle that will represent our turtle. I'm going to close it. At this point, we are still at the initialization stage of our code. What we are interested in is what we are going to put inside the code before turtle point done. We will see you soon for a next video about moving the turtle. We will continue with our code, and the objective here is to move the turtle as we saw previously. I'm going to add in between these lines the commands that we need. We're going to start with the T point forward of 200 pixels. I run my code. You can see that the turtle is moving normally. I close it. I put a T point right to turn 19 pixels. I run it. You can see that the turtle has turned to the right. I continue and do a T point forward of 100 pixels to move forward. I do a T point right to turn 19 pixels. I run it again. Then I do a T point forward of 200 pixels. I do a T point left of 19 pixels to turn left. And then I do a T point backward of 100 pixels. I run it. You can see that our turtle is moving as we planned. We'll see you soon for a video about the staircase exercise. We will continue our code with another exercise. Here, we are going to draw a square. I invite you to do something different from what we did with the stairs. Instead, we're going to make a function. At this level, we're going to put the function square. Inside, we'll put size. So we're going to create a function square, which takes the size of the square as a parameter. I invite you to do it, and we'll come back in a few moments for the correction. Concerning the correction of our exercise, we'll start by commenting on this. Here, I'm going to create a function with the definition def square, which takes size as a parameter. Then we're going to start with the T point forward, the size, and we're going to put our function here inside the two lines, square, and I'm going to put 50 pixels. I run it. It's displayed, and then I do a T point left of 90 for the angle. I run it. You can see that it is well positioned. If I do this 4 times, it will turn the same way. I will do a for I in range at this level, so it has to turn 4 times. Parentheses 0, 4, colon. I'm going to put this inside with a tab. I run it. You can see that this draws our square perfectly. If I want to draw 2 squares, I'll copy this, paste it at the top, and change the size to 100. I run my code. You can see that it draws the large square first, and then the small one. It works normally. We will see you soon for the next exercise about drawing several squares. We will continue our code with another exercise. Here, we will display several squares of different sizes and we'll make a function at this level. Def squares, parentheses. It will take the initial size of the square with the number of squares noted m. Here, we will have to calculate the size of the square according to the initial size. You'll have to do a size equal to I multiply by initial size. And here, like at the level of range 0 to 4, we see that I starts at 0, but no square starts with 0. We will put I plus 1, or we can change the value at the level of range where we put 1 instead. We will do I plus 1 at this level, and then put the function square in our function squares. I will let you do the exercise and we will come back in a few moments for the correction. Concerning the correction of our exercise, we are going to do here, inside the function, a for loop, I in range, parentheses, from 0 to n, colon, size equal parentheses, I plus 1, multiplied by initial size, and then we'll put the function square. We will put the size like this. We will comment on this. We will put the function squares, parentheses, 10, and the number of squares we want, 5. I run it. You can see that it draws 5 squares. Everything works normally, and we can even have fun multiplying here by making the square of I plus 1, like this. I run it again. You can see that it multiplies as we want it. That's all for this video, and we will see you soon for another video about magic numbers. Hello everyone, and welcome to this lesson on Python. Here, we will summarize everything we have seen. I will start with variables. We have seen that there are several types of variables. We have the string, materialized by str, the decimal numbers by float, the integers by int, true or false with bool. As an example of strings, we have a. For integers, we have b. As an example of decimal numbers, we have c. And for bool, we have d. We have also seen the functions print, input, and even concatenations. Here, we can see that the variable age gets the value given by the user through the function input and displays it with the function print. Your name is, we can concatenate with the plus, but also with the double quotes and the percentage %s. This is what we have seen. We have also seen the comments. We can have comments on one line and also on several lines with the 3 double quotes. You can convert strings to int only if it's a number you want to convert by doing int, parentheses, the variable to convert. We have also seen the while loop, which loops as long as the condition is true. We have the name first, with while name equal string, that is always true. And we also have age equal to 0, while age equal to 0, which can be true or false. We also saw the for loop, which loops a number of times. We have as an example, for I in range from 0 to 5, we display the numbers from 0 to 4. We must understand that the range we put here means that the number 0 is inclusive, that is to say, inside, and the number 5 is exclusive, that is to say, we do not display the number 5. Finally, the print function, which allows to return the value of I. We saw the functions. We saw the definition of the function materialized by def, name of the function, parameter if there is any, and if there is not, it still works. We have seen the optional parameters, for example, size equal to 0. We have seen return, which allows to return a value. We said that there are functions that can return a value and functions that do not. We have seen the comparative conditions, double equals, less than or equal to, less than, more than or equal to, more than. We have also talked about the exception. Here we have seen the try, which allows us to check a value or a data, and if the expected result is not exact, it makes the except intervene, which asks the user to enter a valid number, and it is a way of personalizing the error. We will see you soon in the next video for a more visual approach.